In this video, I will be demonstrating how to create a cinematic teal and orange effect in Luminar. This is a popular look that can have a beautiful effect on so many images, including landscapes and portraits and food. It's a very versatile look, and it's actually quite simple to create. So let's go ahead and get started. I have a photo here. I'm in the Layers panel right now. I've added a few adjustments to this base layer, so let me go ahead and toggle that before and after so you can see what I've done. I made some subtle adjustments to the tone and the color, but nothing too extreme. I'm going to create this effect on a new adjustment layer. This isn't a required step, but sometimes when I'm creating separate effects like this, I like to layer them. And part of the reason I do that is because if I create an effect that's kind of separate from what the image requires, such as white balance or tone specific to that photograph, when I create a separate effect, if I have it on a new adjustment layer, I'm actually able to create a look from that I can apply on other images. So I'll go up to the top of that Layers panel and click that plus icon, and then select Add New Adjustment Layer. I'm also going to rename this. So I'll click on those three dots and select Rename Layer, and I'll call this Teal and Orange. Now that I have that layer created, let's go ahead and add the teal and orange effect. So I'm still inside of that Edit panel, and then I'm going to go down to the Professional category on the right and select Split Toning. I'll start out by increasing the amount slider to 100%. You won't see any changes yet, but I like to do that because it gives me a better idea of the effect that I'm adding. I'll probably end up scaling it back after I've created the split tone effect, but sometimes I like to see what these tools do at 100% to give me an idea of their capabilities. Next, I'm going to go to the Highlights and the Shadow Saturation slider, and I'm just going to tap right in the middle just to give the image some color. If I kept them at 0, I wouldn't be able to see the changes to the hue as I make them. So next I'm going to go back up to that hue slider within the Highlight section, and I'm going to move it to the right until I get an orange color. And I'm really just kind of watching this little swatch here on the right. Next I'll go down to the hue slider within the Shadow section, and I'm going to move it over to the right until I find a nice teal color I want to work with. After I've made the hue adjustments, now I can play a little bit with the saturation sliders to kind of fine-tune this effect. So I'm in the Shadow section. I'm just going to take that saturation slider and move it to the left just a little bit so I have it set to 40. And I'm really just watching my photo as I'm doing this. There are no specific numbers that are always going to work. It's just about the setting that I think looks best. I'm going to go back up to Highlights and do something similar with that saturation. I'm just going to kind of wiggle it around. And it looks like I'll probably keep it somewhere a little bit lower than I had it before, in about the mid-40s. I'm going to toggle this layer on and off so we can get a feel for the changes I've made so far. The last slider inside of the split toning tool is the balance. So on the left, it says shadows. So if I were to push this slider all the way to the left, it's basically giving preference to the color that I set for the shadows. So it's basically tipping the scale towards the shadows and less of the highlight colors showing. I could also do the opposite and move it further to the right. Now I'm getting more of that orange color shining through with only a little bit of the blue. I think for this image, I'm going to go just a little bit to the left, so it's a little bit more blue than it is orange. Now that I've actually added all the color and set my balance, I'm going to go back up to that amount slider and move that slider to the left to subdue it just a little bit. So let's see how that looks. And I think this is a really nice effect. Sometimes when I apply this effect, I like to play with some of the other tools in Luminar. So I'm going to jump over to the Creative category, and I'm going to access the Matte Look effect. I'll start by increasing the amount, and I'm just watching my photo as I'm adding this. Next, I'd like to add a little bit of fade, so I'll increase that fade slider as well, and I'll also add a touch of contrast back by moving that slider to the right. I'm going to toggle this specific tool off and on. It's adding a nice look. And lastly, I'm going to add a vignette. So I'm going to go into the Essentials category. I'll click Vignette. I'm going to move the amount to the left. I'm just watching my photo to see that vignette kind of appear. I also want to make sure I have the advanced settings toggled. If you don't see it, just click on Advanced Settings and you'll see those other sliders. I usually like to increase the feather, which kind of spreads and softens the vignette. and also add a touch of inner light to make the center a little bit brighter. I'm going to go back over to the Layers panel, and I'm going to toggle this teal and orange layer off and on, and now you can really see how that overall teal and orange edit affects my photo. I'm finished, but I'd like to save this as a look so I can apply it to my other images. And because I created these edits on a separate layer, it's really only going to save the split tone, the matte look, and also the vignette. Any of the other edits that I created on the base layer are not going to be added to this look. So to create a look, first I'm going to activate the Looks panel. And in the very bottom right, I'm going to click Save New Look. I'll simply call this one Teal and Orange, and I'll click Save. Now I can access that to apply it to my other photos. I also have this look available on the blog post that goes along with this video. Go ahead and download the look, and then if you'd like to get it into your User Luminar Looks category, simply go up to File and go down to the Show Luminar Looks folder option. Then after you've downloaded that look, copy and paste it into this folder, and it will appear inside of Luminar ready to use.